many commentators are worried about China's growth, the slowdown. But let's not forget, if you look at August number, the composite PMI, the Purchasing Manager Index, is still at 52.7, which is 52.6. Sorry, it's still in the expansionary zone, which means the economy is still expanding, maybe at the pace that people would like. But that is really against a very tough August. We had really bad heat waves, as you talked about, worst since 1961, and one of the worst droughts in history as well. And that really hit Sichuan province, which is a big power generator, producing about one quarter of the country's electricity, and send 1/3 of this electricity to other provinces. So taking all this together, yes, agricultural production was affected, but now the rain finally came. In fact, Sichuan, I think, now had a flood warning. So hopefully that would help. On top of that, I think other provinces, especially in the northeast, they were doing fine in terms of agriculture. And industrial production, I think, will resume. That said, the COVID lockdown is still going on now in Chengdu City, which again could take some toll on production. But I think as long as factories are able to remain the closed loop production, and hopefully this lockdown is going to be short, then that would really help the economy to grow in the second half. I mean, the last quarter. Just one quick point on that service sector, service trade. I think it's definitely a welcome message from China in the midst of deglobalization or globalization or decoupling and all these. I think, it's really, if anything, the pandemic teaches us is that, yes, we need to remain resilient, which means we might need to have more food and energy, autonomy. But still, I think that global connection is so important to diversify the risks and to have coordinations to go forward. And I think that is also good for China to boost its service sector productivity and competition.
There are some economists in the West who are questioning China's growth forecasts. In fact, there was a report in Bloomberg in its latest quarterly survey of economists. They're now predicting that China's economy will grow by 3.5%, and that is well short of China's hope that it would grow by 5.5%. But with these stimulus measures, could China perhaps outperform the predictions of these Western economists?
I think by around the second quarter of this year, China officially has not used a GDP target for the rest of this year, because the Chinese government understands that it's actually going to be very difficult to have a precise or more or less precise target for GDP. The focus ought to be really trying to use different measures to try to stimulate the economy, given a pretty tough situation, the pandemic that we talk about, the global recession that we talk about, and in some cases the trade wars and so on. So for all this reason, to have a specific target probably is not that meaningful anymore. But with respect to what could happen, I think in general, the West view on China is a little bit more pessimistic than I believe the real situation is going to turn out to be. Perhaps in some corners of China, some people are perhaps a little bit more optimistic than it could be. So in my personal view, the actual outcome for the rest of this year probably will be better than what Bloomberg was talking about. But at the same time, would it be able to reach 5.5 overall? I think it's still a big question.